So I was saying there's this site called Flutter Gems, this one here. So it also has these same packages that are on pub.dev, but the advantage with it is they are organized according to functionality. You can see here, if you want user journey packages, that's the section. ChatGPT, that's it. Functionality. So every category has its own packages. Unlike for pub.dev, they just put the packages there without categorizing them. They just put them like this, no category. So here I want to take you to that section of state management so that you can see the number of packages you can choose from in case you want to add state management to your app. You might be wondering what state management is. I'll also show you that in a few. Let me just get these packages. I'm looking for that section. Yeah, you see. So under this section of, let me put the link in the chat for state management, that one there. So under that section you'll find a number of packages. There's provider, there's block, rxdat, and many others. So for us in this session we shall be using this one called riverpod, but okay, it is among the easiest that you can use for your state management, but there are many others, as you can see here. So you just choose any that works for your specific use case, because they are not the same for all use cases. Then there's also this one, provider. It is what most beginners use. So riverpod here is just an improved version of provider, so that's why we shall use it today. And it has its official docs on riverpod.dev here. So now let me take you through how it works and what state management is. I'll first start by restoring this app we had at the beginning of this series. Let me put it here. It was the counter app. Oh, no. Let me just create here a new branch for day 3 and put everything there. Let me first push these. Then I create. Right, new branch, day 3. Alright, so today we shall be coding from this one of day 3, this branch of day 3. So let me put here counter. So to best show you what state management is, I want to use the example we had at the very beginning of this series. The default Flutter app. It is what I'll use, and it is what we shall improve to show that possible use case of state management. Counter page. I just want to create a navigation to it here, because currently our screen has these 2 buttons, go to profile, go to product. So I'll add the 3rd button here of go to counter page. I'll give it pink as the color. Then here I specify our counter page, which I separated there. Text in a title. Let me just remove this. call this counter page. Yeah, so I'll hot reload. So let me tap here. So this is our counter page, as you can see it here. But you notice it is a stateful widget. And you remember when we were starting this series, I said that stateful, you use it in scenarios where this value is changing, where you have some value that is changing. For example, in this file, we have the counter, which is always changing. This plus plus is for increment. So whenever you tap this button at the bottom here, you can see the number in the middle here changing. So where state management comes in as helpful is in this scenario here. You see, when we go back now to the previous page and we come back, our value of 18 will be lost. Let me just tap again. So you see here we have 19, but when I tap back and then I come back to this page, our value resets to 0. So that is the disadvantage of stateful widget, whereby it stores state, but it only stores it as long as you're on that page. So if we have a state management package that we are using, this state will be maintained whether we go on the previous page or another page and come back. That value will still be reserved, meaning its state won't change and it will be stored for future use. So this same example is what we are going to modify to use riverpod and state management. So let me get started here. Let me first change this color. So like I said, we are going to use this package here called riverpod. Let me get it. Its docs are here, riverpod.dev. Let me put this in the chat. Like that. Then docs. So let me get here. It has a number of providers that you can use. But for now, you might not need to know the logic behind them. Let me just get for you here a simple use case for his understanding. Let's first add it here to our packages. I'll run this command, flutter, this one here, flutter pub add, flutter riverpod, then I add it to our project. You can either use the command or you just come to pubspec.yaml and you paste it there like this. So let me see. I think it can work alone. These others, we may not use them for now. These other packages like riverpod annotation, generator, build runner. So these ones you'll need them after you have mastered Flutter and you want to use some of these other functionalities. But for now, you just need this first one of Flutter riverpod. And maybe the links, even those are not necessary. So I'll go to the first step. We are going to create our provider. So a provider is more like a class that we shall use, or you can take it as a storage box where we shall store all these values we are using. So let me show you here. I'll create a file called provider.dat, like that. So here the issue we are trying to avoid is that we don't want to use this stateful widget, since we have noticed that it doesn't reserve our state when we leave this page. That's why we want to use Riverpod. So for now, I'll create a state provider, since we want to just reserve state provider. You might not need to cram this syntax of the state provider. There's an extension called Riverpod snippets. This one here, Flutter Riverpod snippets. So you just install it in your VS Code, then you just write these short keywords, either provider. For example, the one I used right now is this one of state provider. This one here, state provider, because we want to create a provider that just preserves our state for now. So this is the one I use. So these are just shortcuts. Instead of cramming all this syntax, you just come here and write the word state provider like that. Then you just give it a name. For example, as I'll give it counter provider, since we want it to store this value of the counter. Then in these angle brackets, you put there the data type, and our counter is of type int, so you just also put that int. Then here you give it a default value, and as you can see here, default was 0, so even here it will be 0. Then to remove that error, you just import the package like that. So this provider here is what we shall use for preserving our value everywhere in the app. So I'll create now another file like this one that we shall use for comparison at the end. So I'll create a file named counter provider, so that you can see how the state management is different from using set state. Counter with provider, maybe. State like that. So here Riverpod comes with some widgets, and let me see here. So it comes with widgets called consumer widgets, as you can see this one. So a consumer widget is similar to a stateless widget, as you can see here. It is similar to a stateless widget, but you only use it if you are using this Riverpod package and you want at the end of the day to retrieve some value that is stored by Riverpod. As you can see here, you just remain with your same syntax for the widget, as you can see here, but here instead of stateless you just put consumer. Then there's also consumer stateful widget, whereby it is a stateful widget, but that stateful widget uses provider or Riverpod. So let me show you here. So you just write here stless, this one, so counter with state. So you can see the syntax is the same, everything else is the same, like the way you write a normal widget. Then I'll import here the material, so everything else you can see is the same widget. So this one is if it is stateless, like that. Then if you want to use the consumer stateful, still it is the same syntax. You just write stateful here, the shorthand, then you select stateful consumer, so consumer with state might be 2. So you can see this one is similar to a stateful widget, the way it's crafted. As you can see, these ones, this is the normal one for Flutter, but if you're using Riverpod, you use this one, consumer stateful. But the logic you can see is the same. Maybe I can open them side by side and you see.
Cephas, excuse me.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a question from Isaac in the chat. I don't know whether you answered that one.
Oh, I didn't see it.
He's asking whether it's possible to use more than one state management package in the same project.
Yeah, it is very possible because these packages don't conflict, so you can use many state management packages in your project, but however it is advised to use only one, because for example Riverpod comes with all state management features you need, whether it is making API calls. As you can see here, I didn't go through the details of everything, but it comes as a full package with everything you need for state management, and you find that at the end of the day you might not need to use any other state management package. But in some scenarios, usually the scenario that makes people to use multiple packages is when they use this. There's this package called get it, so it has some functionality, but at times it misses the simple functionality of state management. So that's why you find someone who has used get it using another package like Riverpod for some state. But in most cases, all these packages like block, Riverpod, provider, they all come when they are full, and you don't need to use any other, like a second state management package. Let me just.
Okay, thank you for that. Just a reminder, there's a pinned link in the chat box. This link takes you to a registration form. You'll be able to register for a certificate and tomorrow's physical event. Kindly, I'm going to reshare it in case it's not really pinned. Kindly fill it out. Thank you.
Alright, I'll continue. So I'm going to copy this code from the previous one we had, and then it is what we shall use now when we are doing this one with state. I'll just paste it here. These errors, we shall fix them in a few. So let me do that. So counter with state management, like that. So to read this value that we created in our provider, because we just created counter provider like that, so to get this value we shall just come here and type, let me just push this down here. So we shall just come here and type final. We want to access the counter value, but the way of getting it, you use, because the I forgot to tell you that this build method for a widget that relies on Riverpod is different from the normal build method. The normal build method has just context, but these ones that rely on Riverpod, they come with this extra parameter called ref. So this widget ref is what you use to access the provider values. So you just put ref dot watch, as you can see that suggestion, then the provider. So this watch tells the Riverpod package that we want to keep listening to any changes that happen to this provider that we put here, to this counter provider. So that's why we put watch, so that any changes that happen, our widget that reads this counter value, it will rebuild. We shall be seeing that in a few. So let me show you here. So we want that when someone taps this increment, this value of the counter should increase. But now, previously when we were using set state, we were editing the value directly, as you can see here. But this time round, we shall still use this ref and the provider. So it is ref, but this time instead of using watch, we use read. So read is the one that you use to change the state.
It's 7:30.
To update the state. Then watch is what you use to keep listening for any changes. I don't know if I'm clear, but let me just put here comments. This one is for updating the value. You use read. Then this one is just for listening to that value. So you put here dot notifier like that, dot state. So why you put this is to tell it that you get the current state of this provider, and then you equate it to the new value, which is the current counter plus 1 or plus plus, like this. So let me see. Like that. So here we are basically saying that when I tap this button, get for me this counter provider and update its state to this new value, counter plus 1, like that. So I'll make this red, I think. So let me create a button for this also on our home page. So this one, the first one was just going to the counter, so I'll create go to counter with state. Maybe I can give it, let me see which color I haven't used. Maybe deep orange. Okay. So here the page still changes. This one we looked at it yesterday, how to go from one page to another. I won't repeat it. So we are basically saying when someone taps this button, go to this page, like that. So I'll do a hot restart since we have added a package. So I'll tap this button, go here, counter of the state. There it shows that error, no provider scope. So why it shows that error is because when you're using Riverpod, maybe let me take you to the Riverpod site here so that you can see. When you're using Riverpod, you have to wrap your widget in a provider scope, but let me just show you here. So this is the package we are using, Flutter Riverpod. So when you are going to use it in your project, you have to wrap your app in a provider scope. Let me show you here. This widget here, provider scope, then child, your app. So you can see here that adding that ensures that Riverpod values can be accessed from anywhere in your app. So that's why we put it at the top level, so that any other widget that is inside our app can access Riverpod and use it. So I'll do that. You just come to the file, this one of main. I want to pin it. So you just come to main, then you wrap your whole app into this provider scope widget. So I'll tap here, wrap with widget, then provider scope, like that. Then I import this from the Flutter Riverpod package, and then do a hot restart again. So you can see now when I go, there's no error, like that. So now we are going to see the difference here. Let me So when I tap here, you can see our current value is 14. So when we go back and then come back, the 14 stays there because we are using state management. So our state is maintained across the pages. But when we come here on go to counter and we increase our value to still the same 14, when we go back and then come back, that value is lost because there is no state management. So that is one advantage of state management. So here I was showing you a simple use case of it, like this, but you might need it in some scenarios, like here if you have your product list like this one. So you might need to add products in the cart, so that when you come back you find those products there. It can also work for that use case. Then another use case, it helps you to avoid scenarios of, for example, let's say we want to use this counter value, this 17, we want to also show it on this page. So instead of us passing in parameters and all that, we just call this line here final counter, this counter provider. We just call it anywhere we want to show the counter value. So let me show you here on the home page. Let me just add it here, counter with state. I add the value of the counter here so that you can see it from this page also. So I'll first convert this to a consumer widget. So consumer is what we use to read the value of a given provider, and then you just add here widget ref like that. There it becomes a consumer widget. So the syntax, you can see it is the same as stateless widget, but what changes is just this ref parameter. So I'll paste in again our counter value and import its provider like that. So now we can use this counter value also on this page. So I'll put $, then the value. So in Flutter, this is how they call it string concatenation, like that, whereby you want to add two strings. If you want, you can use these plus signs that are also in other languages, plus, then you add the value like that, but that will be like a lot of code. That's why you just use the $, and you just put the value there. So you can see here on our button, I don't know if you can all see it, but this orange button here, it has now the 17 that is the other side. So when we update 17, maybe it's 21 and come back, you see also here it shows 21. So that is the advantage of state management, that your state is reserved across all pages. A change here affects a change everywhere else. So I think I'll go to the next one. This one is just a simple use case of the state management, but then for the shopping cart, there's an example here, but this one now uses provider. Provider package is almost the same as Riverpod, just that Riverpod is just the updated version of provider. Yeah, but this is what it was doing, as you can see in this video, whereby you add your items to the cart, then on the next page you can see them, something like that. So when you go to the cart page, you see them and the state is maintained. So that is also one other use case of it, but for now I was showing you a simple one. Let me paste this link in the chat like that. So yesterday I noticed I forgot to show you one example of, let me go here to the product page. So you notice our products here, there are many, but when we increase them, let me just do this. So when we increase them, you see this error, we get these yellow lines at the bottom. It is because we have reached the end of the screen, but however we want these items to be scrollable. So Flutter has a number of widgets that you can use to enable scrolling in your app. So let me show you here. When you come to this section here, let me see. Yeah, this section of work with long lists, you'll see various widgets that can be used by Flutter to enable scrolling in your app. Because for now here on this page where we are getting this error, because there is no scrolling. So one of the widgets we can use is this one, list view. It has the same syntax as column, but for it is scrollable, unlike column, which is not scrollable. Then there's also, when you want horizontal list, one that goes from left to right, you just add this scroll direction. We shall also see it here in this example. Then there is grid view. For example, those who are building, let's say you're building, you see this, the way these icons are for participants here. So this one is a grid, and the widget for that is this grid view. It is the one that does. If you want to code some UI like this one of Google Meet here on the right, you use grid view. So I'll attach maybe this link here in the chat. For now I'm just covering the basic concept, so I may not go into much detail. And then another useful widget is the one called single child scroll view. Let me get that in a few also, so that you can have a look at it. Scrolling here. So this other widget called single child scroll view, with it, its advantage is that if you have like your column, for example here, which doesn't scroll, you just wrap it with this widget and it will scroll automatically without using list view. So I'm going to show you all those two scenarios. So here, let me first wrap it with single child scroll view. So when I hot reload, you can see now it scrolls like that. If you want them to scroll horizontally, just put scroll direction, so axis horizontal, because that is the one you want, like that. This won't show because we need, their heights are different. But if you want horizontal scrolling and you have your widgets built in a row format, then that's when this can be used, this axis horizontal, like that. So if you don't want to use this single child scroll view, let me comment it out, or I'll just leave it up here, maybe someone could want it. So I'll remove it from here. So I said the other widget you can use is list view. Just type the word list view, you don't change anything else. Control S for hot reloading, so you can see it scrolls. But when it is just column and you reach at the bottom of the screen, it will show this error here. So usually the Flutter framework shows you the error this side in the console. You can either read through it or you copy it into like ChatGPT and it tells you what you can fix. So here we shall just put list view to enable that scrolling. Yeah. And so the next section is, let me see. Next section is we are going to do some forms. I'll create a simple form that we shall use. For example, if you want to capture data, just like we are doing today, registering in that form. So we are going to create one here in Flutter. So like I said, in Flutter everything is a widget. If you want a form, you call the form widget and you use that. Then inside you pass in the fields. So if you want a text field again in Flutter, you call that, you call it text field. So most cases the Flutter widgets match with the English words, whereby if the word in English is form, even the widget is form. If the word in English is column and you want a column, you just come and look for it. If you want a text field, you just put the word text field. So most widgets are just English words. If you want button, you just call the button like that. So it is easy to locate the widget you are looking for. If you can't find it, maybe as you code, you just come to the widget catalog. Here, yeah, here on this section here, widget catalog, and you just search among the widgets, or you check out widget of the week here. It is a full playlist on YouTube that shows all Flutter widgets and how you can use them. So that can also be another good one. Alright. So let me show you the one of form, and I think it might be the last one. So I'll create a folder called form, then a file called form.dat. So you can see here, this is what I was telling you, that by the time you finish your Flutter app, you'll find that you have a number of folders. So meaning if you don't start with code organization from the start of your project, at the end it will be so tiresome to debug and also make changes or to maintain your entire project, because these folders keep increasing and the files also keep increasing. But if you can separate them like this, it is easy at the end of the day. So I'll create here stls. I'll use consumer still so that I can show you how it can be used on forms to maintain state. So I'll call this form page, like that. Then we import these, like that. Let me just copy code here to ease time, this one of the scaffold. Repeat. So this one we shall call it form page, like that. Alright, so we shall also create a button for it here on the main home page. Here. So this one will be going to the form. So I'll just put go to form, like that. The color, I don't know which color to use, maybe lime. Then here still we specify where it should go. It should go to that form page, like that. Let me see, text color, let me choose a darker color, maybe lime 900, like that. Yeah, or black actually, for visibility. So when you tap here, it will take us to the form page, and in here, like I said, everything in Flutter is a widget. So first, if you want a form, you just write the word form, then under child we shall now put here the various fields we want. So the form will be having a column, because we want to create a form similar to this one here. When you come to the repo of study jams, want to create a form similar to this one: first name, last name, phone number, what, like that. So and those items are in a column. So I'll create one, then others will just be copy and paste. So children, so we shall need a text form field. So you might be wondering, so we have two widgets. One is text field, like this, and then another one is text form field. So they all do the same thing, just that if you're inside the form widget, like here, you have to use text form field. But if you don't have the form and you just have your column the way it is, then you just use text field, since there is no form widget as a parent. Yeah, so let me just revert. So for this example, since we are inside the form, we shall use text form field, and then we do all those things we want on this. So first, the number of parameters here, when you hover over it, you can declare an initial value, the decoration, how it will look like, the styling, the number of other parameters like hint, enabled, and all those. So we shall use those. I'll start with the decoration bit of it, how it should look like. So decoration, So for decoration, there's this class here called input decoration that you use to style your text field. So this has a number of parameters, as you can see here, like the label for this field, the text, maybe the border radius, the prefix, and all that. It has a number of parameters. So let me just show you from the UI and then how it comes about in code. So for example, if you have a form like this one, so this value here of enter your first name is a hint. Then first name here, this one here is the label. Sorry. Then at the end here you can see this icon, that is the suffix. Then if the icon was at the start, it would be prefix. So we are going now to code this one of first name. We put the label and all those things. So the label is first name, then the hint is enter your first name. So let me hot reload. So you can see so far we have that. However, our border is rounded. Let me see among the parameters here what we can use for that rounded border. Let me first put the suffix icon, which was the other suffix icon, was just that icon of a person. So then the border radius, let me see here, outlined input border. So you can see this border comes with this variable border radius. So we are going to specify that border radius of ours, which is border radius dot circular. Since our UI has this circular thing, so we shall also do the same. I'll give it like a value of 200, so that is 2 rounded. So you can see there how it has become. So let me change this column to list view, so that as we add more fields it is scrollable. And then I add some padding around, edge insets. I hope you all recall padding from the previous lessons. Symmetric, horizontal. So I want to add just padding on the side. As you can see here, our field is touching the screen borders, but I want to add some spacing, so maybe 16. So that is like that. Alright, so we are almost done. So let me just put more spacing here, size the box, then I specify a height. So you see when you tap here on the widget to enter value, you can see now our hint appears. You can see our hint appearing, enter your first name. Then even here the label of first name also appears there, like that. So that is our first field, and now we shall also add all others, and then a button at the end. But before we go there, we want to get this value that the user has typed. So this text form field has a parameter called unchanged. This one here, unchanged. It is what we shall use. So unchanged. So what this unchanged does is that it is more like the way you saw set state, the way it was acting, whereby if the value changes, if this value changes, this callback is called. For example, for now I'll just print in the console. Let me use log. So I'll just print this value in the console so that we can all see. So print like that. Control Shift Y. So here when I type, let me see, let me reload here. Sorry, let me do a hot restart so that you can follow along. So when I type a value here, you can see that at every letter I enter from D up to all these, each value keeps appearing. So this function here of onChanged is called every time this value changes, it is called. So now here, this is where we shall use the state management to store this value. So let's create some providers still. I'll create here provider dot that. So I'll copy from the previous one we had. So this time, instead of counter, we have first name. So first name provider. It is also a state provider since we want to capture this state as it changes. And then it is of type string. Since the user here, they are entering a string. So by default, it's just an empty string like that. So this provider is what we shall use to store our value. So let me come here. So you all recall how we were using the provider. You just put ref.read, then you pass in the name of your provider, you put .notifier here, then to access its state, and then you update like that. Just like the way we did for counter provider is the same way we do for this one. So our value will be stored. Any change to this value will be stored in this first name provider. So we can just create here a brief text widget to show this value as the user types. Let me just copy here some code that we can reuse. So we want to access this value and show it on this form page. Maybe we want to greet the person hello, then here we put their first name. So we shall come here, final first name equals the other provider we had. So then this field will show hello $, first name, like that. So at the start, since this value starts as empty, that's why you just see hello alone. But as I type, maybe my name, Brian Cephas, you can see it shows hello Brian Cephas. So that is another advantage of state management. So at the end of the day, you'll need maybe to push these values maybe to your table, maybe to your server or to your database. So once you have implemented these providers, you just use them to access these values and then you push them. I'll show you by the end of this. So this one now is going to become our reusable widget for all text fields so that we don't have to hard code them every time. So I'll create here text field .dat. So still yeah. So I'll call it app text field, since it will be the default style for all our text fields everywhere in the app. So I do that, and then I import also this other river pod. So here I'll paste in our code for the text field we had, and we can notice what was changing from here is the label, then the hint, yeah, and maybe the icon at times. You can see that. So we shall do that. So first thing changing is the label, then the hint is also changing, then the icon is changing, and also this value, this function here of onChanged, it is also changing. So I'll just copy its data type so that we use it, because each field has its different provider. So we can either pass in the provider. Actually, that would be the best shortcut. So let me just pass in the provider so that we don't repeat code. So these are the things we have noted that are changing. So here I'll just use this ChatGPT to give me the things. This is GitHub Copilot, so that I speed up when I'm presenting. Required and all those other things like that. So these are the values which will change. So we come here, the first name, we put the label. Then what was changing also is the hint, we put it here. Then also the icon was changing, we also put it there. Icon data, like that. So then also the provider for that given field. So those are the values changing. So we shall just call this anywhere else in our app for reusability. So I'll just come here, I put app field, like that. Let me just import it. So you can see, let me put this here, it was provider. So the provider for this one is first name provider. So you can see we have reduced our code to, like, let me see, 5 lines of code. So from all these we just have 5 lines of code because we have created a reusable widget, like that. So we shall now create providers for all other values that we want to capture. For example, now we want to capture last name, phone number, and address. So I'll do those. We shall create their providers. So we want to create one for last name, then we create the other for address, and also another one for phone number. Like that. So I'll copy just these and reuse them. I'll do that. Then these shortcuts. So the first one, this one should be last name, then the next one will be address, like that, address, and then the last one phone number, like that. Alright, so these are the ones which are changing, and they are the ones we shall pass into our form for use. So let me just fill in one, then the rest I'll just give to AI to put. So last name, even here last name, even this provider we change it to the other one, last name provider that we had defined previously, like that. So we have now address and phone number. So I'll do this, phone number, like that. Then I put also address, like that. So here we had the location icon, location home, yeah, that one. So you can see this is how our form looks like. Let's add some spacing around. So I'll just go here, I add some vertical padding, I wrap this into a padding widget, control dot, I wrap in padding. So padding, there's this one of all, which applies to all sides, but if you just want one direction, like the way we want ours to be vertical, you just put here dot symmetric, then the way the English word is vertical, then you specify the value 8, like that. So you can see it adds that vertical spacing of 8 between each form widget, like that. So we are done with that. So maybe the other thing, we can display these values in maybe a card at the top as we wind up. I won't show the other part of, because this one is a button, I won't show that part, but you can still use, I'll show it, no problem. So let me put here card, like that. So in this card, that is where we shall show all our values to the user as they type in. So I'll create a stateless consumer card details, like that. Then I import these because we are running out of time. So it will still be a container. Color, let me just use decoration. Actually, I recall we had a container that we had already designed. It was here in the profile page. Let me just copy its styling so that we don't have to repeat it. So always as you code, just make sure that your code is reusable. This helps you in some scenarios whereby you'll just be doing copy and paste for the whole project. You won't be writing new code because most of your components are reusable. You just call them anywhere. So deep orange, we give it a value here. So this container will just have text displaying the information the users entered. Spacing maybe of 10. So I'll just copy this, which we had already copied it. Good. So let me get it from here. We had copied this. So that one will be displaying the first name. It will also display for us the last name, like that. Then also phone number and then address. So we shall see all that in a few. Center. So we all recall that this is how we get the values from the provider. So I'll copy that. So this is how we get the first name. Then even last name, it is the same logic. We just come put here last name, like that. Then we import the providers. So we shall do the same for phone number and also for address, like that. So this card, we shall have it at the top of our page so that as the user types anything, they can be able to see it. So I'll do this. Then I put the card details widget there. So you can see when you separate your widgets, your code becomes truly readable and easy to debug. So that maybe if you are making changes to only card details, you go to only that file. No need to make changes in the other files which are not affected. So here, maybe if I change the name Brian, then here maybe Arthur. So you can see every change we make to be shown in that card. Then maybe we can also show the phone number, like that. Then we also show the address. So this is one of the advantages of state management, that you can access your values from anywhere, because you can see our form is this side separate, even this widget is separate. But previously, if you were not using state management, it would mean that you pass in these values as parameters to this widget, like that, first name, last name, as you were seeing. Previously, you'd have to pass in these values because there's no state management. But now with state management, you don't need to do this. You just have to call the providers and access the values as they change. So maybe lastly, that button, we had already coded some buttons. I won't repeat that. I'll just copy the code of one of the buttons, like that. So you can see this is one of the advantages of having reusable code. You won't have to repeat yourself every time. So I'll import this button and label this as continue. The color was deep orange. So here on pressed, this is where you put now, maybe send your data to the API, to the database, or something like that. So still, to access these values, you just copy and paste these into your button, wherever it is, like here. And then for now, we shall just print them, just to show you how they appear. So maybe to avoid color crashing, let me label this as blue. Yeah. So you can see now from our console here. Let me do a hot restart so that we follow everything. So when you tap on go to form, then you fill in your values, Brian, then maybe Cephas, then your number, then your address where you are, like that. So when you tap continue here, you can see these values are printed. So you can pass those values into your API or to the database, any way you want to use them. So here, that is, we have built a form this form. But more examples about a simple form, I had got for you some. This one here, let me paste it in the chat as we complete, like that. Yeah, maybe the other thing you might want to use local storage. I may not talk about this, but like in code, but here there's this package called shared preferences. This is what you can use for the local storage. But I know some of you are good at SQL and all that, or you want to use, let's say, Firebase. So there are always packages. So you come to this Flutter Gems site and you just look for a given package you want. Maybe you want SQL packages. You just open. You'll see a number of packages that you can use to store SQL in your Flutter project. And then if you want no SQL packages like Cloud Firestore or Amazon or any other, there are a number of them. You just come and use those like that. Maybe let me just check to confirm if some of the basics we have covered them. These are advanced. Local storage, I've showed you that. Shared preferences, animations, may not do it. Performance. For performance, one of the things I've showed you is this one of having reusable widgets, so that you don't have to repeat this code every time, and it also helps you to be uniform everywhere in the app. For example, here we have seen that our buttons are all styled in the same way. So in the future, if the designer wakes up and says, now we are changing all our buttons to be circular, like to have rounded borders, you can see you make a change to this single file, it changes everywhere. So that is the advantages of reusability of code, like that. So that is one of the performance measures. Then also using this const, I know you have seen me using a lot of const, this const keyword. It is just to tell the framework that this value is constant, it doesn't change. So once you render it, don't change it. So maybe you might be wondering what next after this introduction to Flutter. Maybe how do I go forward to learn Flutter and all that. So I crafted a number of resources. When you come to my portfolio here, cephas.me/community, this will be the last one as I finish up. So I have a number of resources here, basics. So some resources to help you master Flutter. You just tap here on view code, it will take you to the repo. So you'll find there are various things that you can use as you code in Flutter, or as you continue on your Flutter journey. So there are various links I put, even courses. Yeah, for example, even this one, I like it a lot, this Flutter library. Maybe you are coding your project and you want to finish it chap. There is this Flutter library. It has a number of screens that you can copy and use. Maybe let me show you a sample. Let's say we want to use this. You just tap on copy code, then you come to your Flutter project and you paste it. It has to work automatically. Let me demo that as the last, because it helps you to complete your projects faster. Maybe copy paste, label it as that. Just go copy paste, like that. So it has a number of screens. For example, this one, you can see its code here. I'll just tap copy code, then I paste it this side. So it comes with that code already, and then we add this package. So this is a full product screen. So for example, if you are doing your class project, or maybe some client has given you a gig of maybe an e-commerce or some simple app, you just go to that set of Flutter library and you see the things. Let me just put this so that you can all see it. So this was product screen from copy and paste section. I'll label this as red. Yeah. So here when I tap on go to that, you can see our screen appears the same way it appears on this website here. You see that? So that can also help you save some hours. Let me paste in the chat, because I know most of us, even me when I was starting, how I learned is by, of course, doing copy and paste from what others have done. Then with time, as you understand the concepts very well, you start doing your own widgets like that. So for example, let's say you want to add a chat screen in your app. You just come here, copy code, you tap on it, then when you paste it this side in your app, let me do this. So when you paste it, you just call the widget anywhere and you reuse. It renders automatically. Let me do a hot restart here. So you can see we have got a full contact page. So yeah, you can use that also to speed up your development. So this is one of the resources. There are like over 100 resources here that I put, which can help you in your Flutter journey. So just check out this session here. Beyond the basics, you just tap here on view code. It will take you to this readme that has all the links that you want. Yeah. So maybe in case you have any questions, you can ask. Otherwise, most of you, see you tomorrow, because I'll be there at courses Make Hub. I'll also come with the Flutter swag and certificates. Yeah. Ian, you can take on from here as we see what next. Yes, Arinda.
Just a moment before Arinda. Thank you very, very much, Cephas. Cephas is a self-placed gentleman. His repos are open, and he's not charging us for this. He's not charging us anything for this. Guys, tomorrow we are expecting a gentleman to take us through Flutter slivers and some more insights from Cephas, some stuff to do with how to use Copilot and get AI to do the work for you. Yeah, and so much more. So before we start receiving questions, there is a link that is pinned in the chat. It will allow you to register for a certificate and confirm your presence for tomorrow's event. Yeah, so even if you're not planning to make it, please register and select the option of a soft copy certificate. If you only want the soft copy, if you're not planning to make it physically. Yeah, and yeah, thank you so much for sticking with us, from especially the ones that were here from day one. That was Wednesday. Yeah, we really appreciate. Yeah, so now questions before 8:30. Yes, Okelo Ben, we shall do our best to make sure there's an online option for tomorrow. Arinda Jordan, your hand is up. Please unmute and ask.
Thank you so much. Good evening.
Good evening.
I wanted to ask about the SQLite, the difference between these two packages, the SQLite and shared preference, and then also if you're to use local storage, where do I expect the data to be? Like in the app, like I've put the Epic on the phone, so where do I expect the data to be? Where do I get it, like on local storage?
All right.
Yeah.
So to answer
Thank
that, this package here called shared preferences, it stores your values, either int, double string. It just stores them in the app itself, because every app, I don't know if I could demo it very well. Okay, every app has its local storage internally on the phone. For example, if you have, like, okay, let's say WhatsApp, all of you have WhatsApp. When you long press the WhatsApp icon and you go to more options, you'll find under WhatsApp, you'll find some section to do with storage, whereby all the WhatsApp information that is stored locally appears there. So likewise, that's the same scenario when you use a package like shared preferences or SQLite. So once you store these values, they are stored in your app but on the user's phone. So that is why it is called local storage, because these values just go to your app itself and they stay on the user's phone. And the difference between the SQLite and then these shared preferences is that this one, you just write, for example, you see here how you store the values. You just put set bool. You okay, just write like, if you call a function, then you store the value. But for a package like SQLite, you'll have to write actual SQL code. I know you know those things of SQL queries whereby you put select star or create table, these things. So for it, you can see it uses actual SQL to store values, whereas this one just uses Flutter functions to store values. But all these are all stored in your app but on the user's phone. Then if you want this data to be the same across multiple maybe devices or multiple gadgets and platforms, then that's when you use packages like the one of Firebase, the cloud database, cloud firestore. Let me get it for you. So that's when you use like this cloud storage of cloud firestore, or you use your API, or you use Amazon Web Services. So any can work. But if you want to store things locally, for example, sensitive information like the user's fingerprint, if your app uses fingerprint, you can't store that on the server. It stays on the user's phone. So that's when you use packages like shared preferences. I hope that answers you.
Yeah. Thank you. Then also for us people who are going to be online, are we how going to pay for the certificates? Like it's like we
Oh,
are paying for the.
for payments, you'll reach out to Ian, then you send him your money, and then I'll share this link, or you can just keep refreshing on this site. You'll just find here your name, then your certificate in PDF and PNG to get it. I think by tonight they'll be there. So you just send your money to Ian. Then yeah, for me this said I'll be updating this repo with all those who are paid. Then your certificate to access it.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Um, okay, let me share my contacts in the chat. I'll make sure your money reaches safest. Then again, there are questions in the chat from there's one from Julius, another one from Timothy. Yeah.
Oh, so this one is asking Firebase and MySQL, which is more compatible with Flutter. All of them are compatible with Flutter, but like I explained, it depends on the use case you want. So some scenarios you might find that you don't want to store your data on cloud, whereby it updates on various devices. Let's say you have the web app and also the mobile app. So if you don't want your data to keep updating across various devices, then you can store it locally using MySQL or using shared preferences. But if you want it on cloud, then you use Firebase. But both of them are compatible with Flutter very well. No errors. You just call the package. You don't code it from scratch. You just call this package SQLite or the Cloud Firestore package. Let me also show it to you here. Cloud, let me just search it here. This one here, Cloud Firestore, it is the one that does those things of Flutter storage but on Firebase and Cloud Database. Then this one, how best can I run emulators? Oh, mine seem not to come up. If they come up, so about emulators, one thing that determines them first of all is your machine. So if your machine is not like that strong, I recommend you use a USB and use USB debugging, maybe for Android, and you plug in your USB and run the apps. But if you have a powerful machine, then you can run emulators like the way you see here. You can run actual emulators from all platforms. That's the good thing with when you have a powerful machine. But most cases, I also recall when I was starting out in Flutter, I used to face this issue of emulators because my PC at the time wasn't that powerful. So what I used to do, I used to debug on Flutter Web. For example, if the USB is not working, you just run your app on Flutter Web and it works. Let me show you here. Just select Chrome, then you click Run, then it will compile the app and put it on the web. And then for desktop, usually Windows, it also supports that. As you are debugging on Windows, you can just select the option, because when you select here, when you tap here, you see at the bottom right, they will show you all possible devices that you can run on. So here you can see we are running on the iPhone, we are running on Chrome. Let me also pull up this Pixel. So you can also run it on Android, and you test on various platforms like that. But all this depends on the power of your machine that you're using at the moment, because most cases the PC can freeze if it is not like that powerful. Yeah. So there I would recommend you just use this one, the Flutter Web, and you just run your app from there. As you can see here, since Flutter is cross-platform, you'll be assured that the UI is the same everywhere. You can see here on the mobile and web, it is the same thing, same code. We have not changed anything. Let me also run for you here on Android. You see, so that's the beauty with Flutter, that you just run on one platform, you write code once, then everything appears everywhere. No changing code. Flutter handles that for you in the background. That's the advantage. Maybe as we see the last one, will tomorrow's wrap up be shared on Google Meet? That one, Ian said he will communicate how the link will be, but I will try my best to record in case I'm presenting, because my machine can record. Then I'll provide the link. I know you might be wondering about the previous recordings, but I checked them out and they didn't have sound. I don't know how I forgot to add sound in the previous ones, but this one, I'm very sure the sound is there. I just missed out on some small setting. So this one I'll share it, I think like 30 minutes when this ends. I'll share the link to it. Yeah. I hope the questions, I've answered all of them. Yeah. So for certificates, Ian has said you just send your money to him there on these numbers. Then just keep refreshing on this site of certificate jams. You'll find your name here, then your certificate, then the PDF. Then those who will be there physically, you'll get your printed certificates. So lastly, I can show you this one, which I was saying that Flutter is cross-platform. You just write your code once. So you can see this one here is the iPhone, then this is the web, then this one is the Android phone. So you can see the code is the same, everything is the same, but you deploy to multiple platforms. So that's the advantage of Flutter. So I encourage you all, even after this series, you should just continue with Flutter and learn it further. Also, these resources I've shared will help you. Yeah, thank you so much. It's like someone has a question. Alright, Ian, I think you can take on from there. For numbers, they were put here in the chat. Let me just paste them again.
Yeah, again, if you follow the link, I've added the numbers to the header bit, so the contacts and payment details are on the form, the Google form.
Yeah.
The link is pinned. Do we have any more questions? If you have a question, kindly unmute and ask.
It's 8:30.
Hello.
Yes.
I had a more question.
Yes.
So, I really like this session,
Thank you.
but I really wasn't able to like be around for like the earlier sessions previously. So I just wanted you to like maybe like throw like a small reminder. I
could just go back and make some research on that.
Oh,
Yeah, what we missed, what I could have missed out back there.
okay. Maybe to best explain that, you see this repo here,
Yeah.
it has everything. So you'll see it is step by step. Day one, what we covered, day two, then day three for today. So let me first push this and you see. So these are what we covered in day three. Maybe in summary, I can say day one was just mainly about showing hot reload. So day one, we built this simple page showing hot reload in Flutter and changing colors. Then we also built some of these buttons that you see here on this page. Then we came to day two, whereby we coded this profile, I don't
Yeah.
recall very well, and added this picture and showed some widget called stack that allows you to put one item on top of the other. Then today, day three, we covered this one of forms in Flutter. Then we covered state management, whereby when you make a change here, it appears on all other screens. As you can see, this 12 here is the same when we change and come back, the value is there. Then I also showed here some simple copy and paste guide to help you. For example, if you're running out of time but you want a Flutter app chap, so you just come to this site of Flutter library and you just select the screen you want. Maybe you want authentication, you want some login screen very fast. For example, this one, you just click on copy code, then you just copy it in your Flutter project. It will work automatically.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically that is what we covered.
Okay. Can you help like with the link for GitHub? Oh, it's
Yes,
the one on the site.
I already shared the links to GitHub. uh, Let me maybe again share it here so that you can have a look at it. But if you just go in your browser and type git.new slash, is it jams 25? Okay, this is the short link so that you don't have to type the other whole GitHub link. Let me git.new anywhere in your browser slash jams 25, like that. It should
I've
be
seen
able
it.
to open this repo for you. Yeah, but I'll provide the recording to this last session. Even the other ones, I'll also upload them, though like I said here, the issue was that they didn't capture the sound, so they are just like moving videos, no audio. But I'll upload just in case you want to follow. I'll upload them to this channel here. Let me show you. To this channel called Flutter. This one. This is where I'll upload them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome. Anything else?
Hey, Arinda Jordan, yes.
My last question is to Cephas.
Yes.
I would like to know whether you have a YouTube channel where you have some videos about Flutter, so that we can follow you and follow along with time. Thank you.
For now, this one I have was just for posting sessions that I've recorded. But if you want to learn Flutter, there's this one that I recommend a lot. It is among the resources here. Let me get it. It is a good channel because it helped me a lot as I was learning how to code, and I believe it will help anyone else. Flutter way. I just want to get to that link to the YouTube channel. yeah, this one here. I put even other YouTube channels that you can follow about Flutter that can help you, because mine just has usually recorded sessions, nothing much. But this one here of Flutterway, it has a number of apps and they build from scratch, and actually they follow the same coding syntax we have been using in this series, whereby they keep separating widgets, like each single file one widget, to have that functionality of code reusability. So I recommend this one. It has like good videos you can follow along, full apps, like from start to finish. Then they're usually like 19 minutes, so it is easy, you just follow along. I recommend this. Let me paste it in the chat. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Ian, maybe you can give us the way forward as we conclude.
Okay. Yeah. So just to talk about tomorrow's physical event, it will be at level 5 block B courses. That is Make Hub. We shall start at 9 sharp, and would like to be done by 12:30. There's a lot. Uh, I'm sure some of you have heard about slivers in Flutter. So Enoch will take us through, and Cephas will give us more. Yeah, so please don't miss out. There is swag, there are caps, there are refreshments. Yeah, it's fun loaded. Okay, O'Brien is asking here whether
Yes, there's a Flutter community. I'm going to share the link to it with Ian, or I'll add it to the repo so that you can join. It is called Flutter Kampala Meetup. So I'll share a link to it. Usually we are posting there content about Flutter, Flutter events, or some articles, and it is a good one. It is on WhatsApp. I'll share a link, then you can join it. Then actually, you guys, you can all come tomorrow. I have swag here. It can accommodate up to 40 people, and I see here we are just 22, so meaning there's swag for everyone. Just make sure you are there tomorrow. You answer some questions, or just say anything about Flutter, you'll get, because there are over 40. So here, when I see 22, that's a good number, so everyone will get. See you guys there.
Arinda Jordan, I think everyone from any campus can join the Flutter community. Unless you're talking about the physical event. But we will try to make sure keep away from people who cannot physically. We'll try to make sure you guys join us over Google Meet or maybe Zoom. Yeah, I guess that's all for now. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. Yeah. Yeah. So all the other details, payment, registration, things concerning certificates, and all that are just tap the link. The details are provided in the header. Yeah. So guys, have a good night. Thank you very much for being with us today.
All right. Nice time, guys.